Hey guys, hope it's going well. Welcome to the first lecture of the Introduction to Electronic Music Production course, hosted on Udemy. So, in this first lecture, I'm just going to give you a rundown on what a DAW is. Basically, back in the day, to get into music production, you needed lots of money or you needed contacts. Everything was done in studios with lots of expensive outboard gear, hardware, and there just wasn't much opportunity for people. So fast forward a couple of years, about 20, and we have 12-year-olds making music on their laptop, becoming famous, that kind of thing. It is so much more accessible in the 21st century. So that's enough of the history and background. I'll get to it. So what is a DAW? First of all, I call it a DAW. It's actually a DAW, which stands for Digital Audio Workstation. I find it more easy to call it a DAW. Hang on, I'll just adjust my microphone. So I call it that. You can call it DAW if you want, or its full name. So yeah, what does Digital Audio Workstation mean? A software DAW consists of a virtual mixing console. Now, what I mean by virtual mixing console is, if you've ever seen a mixing desk in a studio or a live event, it's basically the digital equivalent of that. So instead of moving knobs and faders, you're moving them with your mouse and that kind of thing. Or, yeah, anyway. Musical input device. So you can connect a MIDI keyboard to your computer and you can play notes into it, or you can just input notes with your mouse into a step sequencer or piano roll, which we'll get into later, and make sound, make melodies and chords. And it's also an audio sequencer. By sequencer, I mean a program that allows you to arrange, edit, and basically build a song by editing audio and MIDI. So there we go. A software DAW is the digital representation of what most people call a studio. And yeah, a lot of studios do run software DAWs in this day and age, but they still have a lot of outboard gear, hardware components that run into that. So why is software so great? Well, first of all, like I said before, it's much more accessible than it. Music production is much more accessible than it used to be. Obviously, this comes with a number of pros and cons, but I can safely say that the pros outweigh the cons. After all, music is an art, and art should be shared. And my aim with this course is to teach as many people as I can about music production, why I love it, why I do it. I think it's amazing. So that's my number one, point. Like, that's why software is great. It's so much more accessible. You can make music on your laptop. It doesn't cost much money. It's easy to understand. When I went to a live event once, I was near sound desk and I had no idea what was going on. Now you can open up your DAW. You can go onto YouTube and search for a beginner's tutorial and you can understand it. It's also cheaper. I already mentioned this. Sorry about that, but it is much cheaper. There is a DAW called Reaper, which is technically free. You can evaluate it for as long as you want, which means you don't have to pay for it. But yeah, it's much cheaper. The one we're using for this course it does cost, but we can use the demo free of charge, and the only limitation is that we can't save a project, which is not a big deal at the moment. So the next lecture, yeah, this is a bit of a short lecture because I'm just covering some basic stuff, basic information, so you know where I'm coming from especially when I talk about terms. And don't worry, the next lectures will be much longer. I hope you don't get bored. So next lecture, the playlist. So FL Studio, the DAW we're using, contains a playlist, and the playlist is basically the audio sequencer. That's where we arrange our song. That's where we put different sounds together, and that's where we edit everything pretty much. The step sequencer is where we build individual patterns, individual sounds. For example, drum beats or melodies. That's a step sequencer. The mixer is, like I said before, the digital representation of a mixing desk. I will go into this in more detail in the next video. And the browser is basically where we find sounds and drag them into our DAW.